Ho, 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 boys and girls. Welcome to another very special episode of So to Speak. Je m'appelle Evan Mead.
Milano Lyle Broniger.
Ah!
I don't know any other clever languages, but Josh Weinberg, and also filling in for Cody McDonald as well. I'm pulling double duty.
Oh, okay.
Given that it's December when we are doing this particular episode, it's that time of the year again.
It's
stay
the
indoors.
most wonderful time of the year.
Oh, Staples has been doing that since the summer. Come on.
So
That song's
Yeah, 'cause-
lost all meaning. I'm sorry.
yeah, thanks Business Depot. But okay, so what brings me back to the day? Thinking about toys at around Christmas time, because throughout the years, I guess for Christmas and Hanukkah, we got some good shit. We got some good shit. Well, it's true.
This isn't a kids podcast, I guess.
It's not.
Right.
I did say that I wanted this to be like PG-13, so yeah, no, it could still be a kid podcast. High schoolers will get something out of it. Although, hey, if you're in high school, aren't you a little old to be playing with toys? You gotta see. When you turn 13, playing with toys from ages 13 to 19, playing with toys is considered lame and babyish. It won't be cool again until you're in college. So, yeah.
Or you're a 40-year-old man, and you'll call yourself a collector.
Worst comparison ever.
Thank you. So we're going to talk about toys we are nostalgic about today, huh?
Yeah. Because, I mean, we grew up in the 90s, 2000s, and I gotta say, like, it was probably probably a couple generations before the kids would be, on cell phones or iPads. Can you imagine, like, raising a kid today and just giving them an iPad to play with? When I have kids, I want them to have physical toys.
I can't wait for the iPlushie line.
The iPlush. Oh, okay. Yeah.
If Apple wants to do that kind of throwback, I would welcome that.
Okay.
It is funny. I did see, I think in the Shoppers Drug Mart a few days ago, there's like a sort of quote-unquote tablet toy for kids that has like these icons that look like apps. But you press them and it makes sounds and stuff. So it's kind of a new spin on an old formula.
It's been done.
It's been done.
All right. Thanks, George.
Welcome.
Well, remember the time when the Beatles and like any big band could have like a line of toys and it would sell like hotcakes?
Yeah, now they're just Funko Pops.
Do you know what I remember? I remember going into a collectible stores and seeing old action figures of the Beatles. And they were stylish too. I remember seeing Yellow Submarine figures.
Yeah, the Yellow Submarine line, I remember seeing some stuff of. Those were some neat figures. And
then of course, if you know how there are action figures of athletes but I've seen action figures of Gene Simmons,
McFarlane Toys. Yeah,
and Axl
they
Rose.
do some
McFarlane
great
Toys, bless them
especially
for the detail.
is it the Master of Puppets era of Metallica or the Injustice for All era? Definitely when James Hetfield had the long hair still.
Now, speaking of McFarlane Toys,
figurines.
Yeah, Lyle, my Simpsons figures that ended up in the thumbnail of our first Simpsons episode ever? Those were done by McFarlane Toys.
Santa's Little Helper being on the naughty list.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Is that McFarlane?
But he's the loser. He's pathetic. He's
a Simpson.
Yeah. You gotta recreate that scene with Chulo this Christmas.
Okay.
Oh, no. Oh, he's a loser. He's pathetic. He's a Simpson.
If you can.
He's a very big dog. I don't know how well that's going to pan out for either party.
He jumps on me all day, okay? I come into the house, he jumps on me. I want to leave the house, he jumps on me. I hug Veronica, he jumps on me. He's very energetic. We just don't like it
Get
when
rowdy
he
to
does it.
some music. He jumps on.
He doesn't like. We don't like it when he does it to delivery men. But me, I gotta wear him out. All right.
Maybe the
Otherwise,
dinner
he'll
just
do
needs
it
a
to
chulo
others.
seal of approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chulo.
Yeah. Josh, I think you met Chulo this past summer.
Yeah,
when...
and I will agree with Lyle's statement. He does indeed jump.
Yes.
Jump around. Get up, and get down.
Okay, so that's a nostalgic song. We gotta talk about.
Yeah, we're kind of all over the place. I apologize. I'm kind of out of it.
Hey, welcome to podcasting. One last thing before we really talk about toys. I was on Facebook scrolling through my memories, and on this day, 11 years ago, I posted this following status. This may come as a surprise to a lot of you, but I actually can't stand hearing myself talk. And then I had a big womp womp moment. Okay,
Don't we
so
all?
nostalgic toys. So going back to the 90s, back in the 90s, na, 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 you know the rest. Okay, back in the 90s when you guys were coming up, what's the first toy you remember owning?
I remember owning. That's a tough one.
That's kind of hard. I had
It's the first toy you remember.
I know that's
Doesn't
why.
necessarily-
Yeah, that's
You
still
first
the
thing you
same
remember.
question,
So
Evan.
I
Alright,
should have.
I think I have an answer. I had a teddy bear, actually. And creatively, I called it Teddy. And it
Aw.
was it wasn't quite designed like a regular bear. It had it kind of had this Neapolitan design. It had a pink head, it had a white body, and it had like blue pants. And I took it everywhere I went. I think I still have it, actually. I might have to show a picture of it, but it was like this nice little gummy bear looking toy. And I you do the thing where you grab by the arms and you swing it around like a tornado. I did that an awful lot. It was it was made out of yarn, and sometimes its pants would get kind of like worn out, so we'd have to like knit new ones. So yeah, I actually had a lot of plushies when I was younger. I had a Raggedy Ann and Andy. I had a Bulbasaur because that was my favorite star. It still is my favorite star of Pokemon, so I had to have a Bulbasaur. And those are just like I could go through a whole list, but those are the main ones that I remember having. I collected plushies back in the day.
Nice. I collected plushies too. Quite honestly, because okay, one plushie I had was actually you had. Well, I think we all had teddy bears. Josh, did you have a teddy bear?
I remember there being a bigger one. I forget where we got it from, but it was like a pretty big one, big enough to where you could sit in it. I don't remember when we got it though. I do remember the first stuffed animal I ever got, which I guess is toy adjacent, and I believe this is still at my house. Is a Barney stuffed animal that I believe would have been when I was 2 or 3. But like I said in a prior episode, the show started the same day I was born, so like it or not, that the purple dinosaur and I are stuck together forever. At least in the TV equivalent.
Oh yeah, that's cool. So one of the first I had a lot of plushies too. I actually remember when I was like really young. I had a bear that actually had a music
Did you also
box.
name it Bear?
I don't remember what I called this bear, but
I hope
I
you didn't
remember
leave any white substances around this bear.
No, the bear was white. Funny, now that you mention it.
Okay, good.
But here's the thing: it had a wind-up like mechanism on the back, and every time like I think it was like a Disney bear because it played like a music box version of a Spoonful of Sugar from Mary Poppins.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Are you sure it wasn't a Mary Poppins toy then?
I mean, maybe it was. But you know what? Another plushie I had from back in the day was I had a stuffed Stegosaurus, and what's cool about this was alleged because my mom had a girlfriend who was married to a guy who worked on big movie sets, and one of the biggest productions that came to Toronto in the 90s was the Santa Claus. And you know, Santa the workshop at the North Pole, like apparently there's like toys everywhere. Apparently that Stegosaurus was in the movie, and apparently it was used on the set. So I have actually rewatched the Santa Claus when I was growing up.
So you've got a prop from a movie, basically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rewatch the first Santa Claus now on Disney Plus soon and see if I can spot it.
No,
Get
okay,
ready for
Josh.
the new show.
Josh, I have
Santa
already.
Claus is, yeah.
Josh,
Mhm.
I have tried and failed to spot this little Stegosaurus many times.
Well,
We
your
watched that
TV's
movie
not
bo-
zoomed in enough then. Obviously.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, like I feel like if you and I should get together and just scan that movie just frame by frame, I'm sure we'd find it.
Oh
You
god,
gotta do
that'll
what
take
they
like
do
3
in-
days.
You gotta do what they did in Jurassic Park. You gotta get like a side mirror in, because then it's closer than it appears.
Ah,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Chase after.
Yeah.
That was
But
another reference.
I remember another toy that I remember from when I was about 4 or 5 years old was actually my dad used to, when my parents were still together. My dad would love watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I remember loving the intro of Star Trek: The Next Generation, but being bored out of my skull with the rest of the show. So, I love the show. I love the intro so much that my dad actually went out and got me a toy of the Starship Enterprise.
Oh, that's
and,
nice.
And this was
Oh, wow.
this was about 6 years before I saw Star Wars. So
And
I
this was like
technically
Prime Next Generation era Enterprise too.
Yeah.
So this was like after all the notable characters were in there.
Yeah. So
I remember one of my earliest toys, if we're going to talk about Star Trek and going to Star Wars, was when I had my tubes in my ears installed. So I was having an ear infection. So after that was like my first major surgery. So my mom, to help me with the situation because I didn't feel great, we went to Toys R Us, which is literally like the nirvana of every kid's domain when you're younger. You think it's the best place. You could spend hours. You could spend a whole day there if you wanted to.
yes.
Against your parents' will, of course. And I remember, I'll never forget, I got like this nice little young Obi-Wan Kenobi toy from Episode 1. And he had like his blue lightsaber, he had his like, not man, like a man braid, and all that.
Yeah.
But it's
his Padawan braid.
yeah, braid. And
His
it's funny enough.
style choice.
I remember I dressed up like him for Halloween that year because I was like, I really liked Ewan McGregor in the role.
Yeah.
But then he had a beard, and then I stopped liking him. I don't know why.
It's fun.
Is there something you have against facial hair?
I don't personally like having facial hair. I don't know. It's a
Well, that's
preference
true. It
for
does
me.
get hard to maintain.
And
But
itchy
and it's
and
also
all
probably
that.
hard to replicate on toys.
Yeah. Oh, actually, the figurines have by today's standards, the figurines have gotten actually a lot better, especially with mustaches. Mustaches,
Remember
I think,
back
are
in
easier.
in the days of the original trilogy when it was like the Kenner line was all the rage?
Yeah, where Obi-Wan just had like a big gray block on his chin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Must
It
have had
was
to work
November.
really hard to get a Tetris block.
Do
to look
you
that
know what's
good.
funny? My first. Okay, this might be a bit of a a bit of a parallel between Lyle and I, like kind of like a yin yang, But the first Star Wars action figure I ever remember getting was my dad and I went to Zellers we did a stop at Zellers or Toys R Us on our way to a fishing trip, like a long time ago, and I saw a figure. That action figure where Darth Maul has his like little speeder that he uses for 2 seconds. Well, they made a toy out of that, and
Of course they did. Why wouldn't they?
yeah. So my dad got it for me, and your first Star Wars figure was Obi-Wan. Mine was Darth Maul.
Well, I remember I had a Darth Maul thing. It was like a sucker or something, and you hold the
Yeah.
button and he like spins around, and the sucker would spin around in your mouth. So I don't know. They went extra with lollipops back in the day. Now they're all lame. But if we're
More
on the
like
subject of
Lollipops.
episode 1, if we gotta talk about that, I remember my buddy Carson. I hung out in his room a lot, and I just kind of peeked into his closet at one point, and I found this. I shit you not, this dancing Jar Jar Binks toy. And you press the button, and you go like. I
I can't picture him dancing to the Mos Eisley Cantina theme.
I don't know why. It seems kind of anachronistic.
Because it was trying to capitalize on the success of the original trilogy.
This is
like
gonna
all good
both
prequels
date
do.
me and also make me seem really trying to get in with the kids. But imagine
What?
like a Star Wars character in the show today doing that dance. I don't know if either of you have heard of it. The Gritty. I don't know if any.
But
of you have
Star
much.
Wars likes to veer away from like stuff that's relevant to the time, unless it's the Disney Star
Wait,
Wars.
wait,
Which
wait. Didn't Watto sing that song in the Empire Episode 1 Racer?
I mean, he does like a grunted version. If he just goes.
Oh,
Now
there you
this
go.
is karaoke.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh my god! How did I not put the pieces together that Watto was grunting, humming the Cantina theme?
I don't know,
So fun.
Evan. Maybe you were just
You were too blinded by the high-speed pod racing action.
and the
Exactly.
bad graphics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I played that game on Switch, and it turned out a lot
What,
better.
Episode 1 Racer?
Episode 1 Racer? Okay.
That's not bad. It's a remaster of a decent enough game.
Oh, I kicked ass at the N64 version, but I agree with Lyle, the draw distance was a little frustrating back
it's
then.
really hard.
The remaster fixes the draw distance, so it's
good.
it actually feels like an F-Zero game.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I remember actually liking Jar Jar Binks as a character and having a couple of toys related specifically.
I didn't mind him either, but the internet and all. It's kind of
I
fun
mean,
to
the
hate
internet
on.
was primitive back then. Like,
Wait a minute.
I didn't know
Jar Jar, JJ.
Okay. Yeah.
It was written in the stars.
Of the wars. And the
Of the wars.
war and the dar. I'm gonna eat some gummy worms.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna.
Oh, this is kind of a side. Remember they would have like sticky hands and sticky other things where
Yeah,
it would be attached to a
rubbery,
thing. And,
like-
yeah, it's like you could crack a whip and you could like fling it at a wall and it would stick.
I
feel like a
vaguely remember
superhero.
these.
Yeah, those were
Really?
fun. Granted, they would lose the stickiness after I think
would
either a
get
couple of days or a few
dirty.
weeks. Oh yeah,
If they fell
would.
on the floor, they would get dirty.
They would-
Especially if a cat or
Everything
something.
would stick to it. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
But those
problem.
are like fun dollar store toys. You know, you get them on a whim.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's all good.
Here's
Kinda
kind
like
of a
Kinder
weird
Eggs.
toy that I remember. I mean, for me, I always loved because I mean, I sometimes use like squeeze balls or things to manage my stress levels, and sometimes a fun way to like just like it was like either using as a kid it was things like Play-Doh, of course, or I would also use sticky tack, which I know is meant for hanging up posters and stuff, but I would just use it to like pull it apart, put it back together, like silly putty, but a little more colorful.
I
Safe for
actually
most
remember,
children,
your our EAs typically didn't like it when you were playing with sticky tack, but I knew you like were getting such a kick out of it. Yeah, no, that I even tried it once.
I think it was a tactile thing, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I know in hindsight, it's like any other sort of sticky thing. It will dry out, and it will just kind of like fall apart after a while, but I liked it for its time. I did have some Star Wars toys growing up, though not quite the same as like the figures or a dancing Jar Jar, as hilarious as that is.
I remember, Josh, there was a toy I remember when I came to your house. Remember how like when you bought. When Phantom Menace toys were everywhere, do you remember the action figure line where they came with these little chips?
Yeah,
like
the
each
voice
character
chips,
came with a
and
little
you
chip?
could put them
Yeah.
in, and there'd be different ones for each character, but there was a few buttons on the top of it. Kind of looked like a
con
what's the
link.
word? Kind of like that, yeah, like a walkie-talkie, like a more condensed
That's what it
remote
was.
control. You'd
It
press
was-
the
it was
buttons at
meant
the
to-
top. It would have different voice clips as well, so that's where you'd hear some of the clips from Episode 1, and there was that, and I definitely had at least one or two lightsabers. I think I had a Darth Maul one at one point, and then I know I had I want to say I had an Obi-Wan one or a Qui-Gon one. It was blue or green. It's been a long time, but yeah, I'd say Episode 1 was like the peak and the last bit of my Star Wars toy collecting.
Yeah, I didn't collect Attack of the Clones or Revenge.
I
of the
did.
Sith.
My first.
Well, I
Okay,
bet you did.
I collected.
I didn't.
I think I collected
for both.
more memes from Attack of the Clones than toys.
Yeah, everyone did.
I think it's
But
because
I
I
remember-
Everyone
absolutely
collected
hated it.
memes, right?
Okay, so
They did
yeah.
collect memes, right?
For Attack of the Clones and Revenge, my first action figure from Attack of the Clones was, I think, Jango Fett, because I really like Jango Fett as a character. Now I'm kind of pissed off that he was underused, like as an adult.
I mean, we got Book of Boba Fett. You think we'll get a chapter of Jango Fett in the future?
you know, okay,
Motherfucker had his own video game, Evan. What are you talking about?
yeah,
Oh
but
yeah,
here's the
Bounty
thing.
Hunter. That was pretty
Yeah,
good.
Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I love that game, and if Dave Filoni ever wants, or Jon Favreau ever want to take a crack at adapting the Star Wars Bounty Hunter, like the origin of Jango Fett, do it. I will watch that show so hard; it'll be so good.
I'm
But
surprised
back
they
to
didn't do more action figures from of the Super Bombad Racing game when they
Yeah.
kind of look like chibi characters a little bit.
Oh yeah, like vinyl toys or whatever.
Yeah, like imagine a chibi baby Yoda figure. You know what? They could very easily just do a modern Star Wars racing game and just put in a bunch of characters from new franchises and make toys off of that.
Yeah.
They could.
Imagine the guy from Andor in a racing game.
Cassian Andor.
The guy from Andor. That's his character name.
The guy from Andor.
If it's obvious I haven't watched
Andor.
that show yet.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to diss on it. It's just I'm not interested.
The Batch, the Batch from the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
You know,
the Mandalorian. That's his name, right?
I actually... Okay, full disclosure, I know this is a nostalgic episode, so we're meant to talk about toys from our childhoods. But full disclosure, I still will collect... I collect Star Wars The Black Series action figures, and those figurines ain't cheap, kids. You gotta have a job.
A figure and
You gotta have a
make
job.
sure that
You gotta have a
black.
job. You gotta make them big boy money. But anyways. So,
I'm surprised it's called the Black line and not the Black Series and not like, gold, platinum, titanium, unobtainium.
Yeah. Unobtainium, yeah. Well, now that you mention that, but yeah, case in point, I brought up the Black Series because for my birthday 2 years ago, Lyle got me a figure from the Mandalorian. It's actually one of my it's one of my favorite figures that I own. It was what he looked like in the first few episodes, but yeah. And then going back to when we were kids, the first figurine I ever got from the Revenge of the Sith line was of Anakin, and the movie. No, it was General Grievous. Like
I was gonna say, I remember you having a Grievous figure near the end of elementary school.
I had a Grievous figure, but they didn't. But this particular Grievous figure doesn't split his arms like he does in the movie. But that figure came out later. But I got the figure because I'm like, I don't know anything about this character, but he looks cool. I want to know more about him. And then, like, I liked him in the movie. I just wish he had more screen time. But anyway, and the second figure I got from Revenge of the Sith was Anakin. And he actually comes with a red lightsaber, despite never using a red lightsaber. Actually, no, he does use a red lightsaber when he decapitates Count Dooku.
You know what I'd love?
There you go, Josh. You got a figure memory and a meme memory.
That's true. This is more of a toy idea for kids today. For those of you that aren't necessarily into like video game tech and stuff, with Xbox they have a website where you can design your own controller and you can make your own color scheme and stuff like that. If they could do that, but for say lightsabers, so if you want to go with a color that's fairly uncommon, you can do that.
Yeah, you know that there are tournaments where lightsaber crafting is actually like a real hobby. Like people have crafted like honest to god lightsaber, not like honest to god lightsabers, not like a real lightsaber, but like swords that are like so high quality replicas, and people can actually have duels with them. Like, and when they were making the Obi-Wan show, like they used those sabers as props.
I believe it.
In the new production, but yeah.
Did you guys ever like having shooting galleries where you put all your action figures in one place and shoot them with Nerf guns?
Okay, was that a country thing? Because I never did like shoot.
I feel like that's when you want to practice, and the fair's going to be in town.
Yeah, like
I used to do that a lot. I used to have this cardboard set, and it was all Western themed. I had this like little black holster gun. I'd whip it out and I'd shoot these like red darts, and it would just be like try to get them all without reloading. Granted, you'd always lose the bullets over time. It's just like the natural order of things. But like I used to do that a lot with my toys, just shoot them off the table.
Okay,
fun.
I didn't do that. That's interesting. I never actually considered that could be I guess the reason why I asked if it was a country thing, because I know in the country they shoot cans off of the fence.
Oh, so. I did that too. I had a BB gun.
Bottles.
I would shoot cans.
Wait, you had a BB gun? You had a BB gun, and you didn't?
It was more of an airsoft gun. Although a lot of people in my area had a lot of airsoft guns that would shoot pellets.
Okay, so the important thing is you didn't shoot your eye out. So this is a good Christmas story.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but our Sith are in another castle. No, I'm mixing up the reference now.
What?
I know there's been Mario figures and stuff, but again, I was not much of a Nintendo kid growing up.
Our princess is on another Death Star, I think.
No, our princess is at another chess tournament. There we go. I'm making the topical reference.
Joy.
Okay, actually, on that note, Josh, I remember in the early 2000s, Nintendo or some Nintendo collaborated with a toy developer to release figurines from the hottest and the most popular N64 games in late 2000, early 2001.
What, Pilot Wing 64?
No, there was Mario Kart figurines. I remember having Mario, Luigi, and Donkey Kong. And I think Wario, too. And I remember, I will never forget this, seeing action figures from my all-time favorite game, Ocarina of Time. I was at Zeller's with my dad, and we were just browsing the toy department, and then I was like, like, it was a dream come true. And
you
I
just
still
do that
have
every time you get really excited?
Well, you know how Hank Hill goes, like,
It goes,
like,
something like that.
Now, was that kind of like Arthur's gasp, or... Where's Cody to play that soundbite?
I'm getting flashbacks to earlier this year. There it is. Well, speaking of Arthur, there was like a bunch of toys and plushes related to that too.
Yeah. Arthur wasn't big on like the figurines, was he? Like I remember there was like
I
an
am surprised there hasn't been a small Arthur line of Funko Pops.
You think that there would be, like, considering how it ran for 25... Yeah, they weren't big on the merchandise, quite honestly. Yeah. So, another, do you guys remember, how, like, because a lot of these, so Disney was no stranger to merchandise. Do you remember going to the Disney store and just seeing the most high quality action
that's what
figures?
kind of sucks. All the Disney stores and malls in Canada closed a few years ago. I think as early as late last year.
But I'm talking back in the day when they would craft like toys, and the toys had impeccable detail. Like, I was impressed.
Well, that was neat as well. Just going to a Disney store and seeing just like the merchandising being put into just a display of stuff, just to make it look that much neater.
For full disclosure, I think the first time, my first memory of ever going to a Disney store was when my parents took me to the one at Yorkdale.
Mine too, I think.
Yeah, and I remember actually being a little scared because like sensory overload, because like they were blasting like songs. Actually, I distinctly remember hearing either Colonel Hattie's March from the Jungle Book or I Want to Be Like You playing in the Disney store. Yeah.
You know, it was like, going to look at Disney stuff and the toys, and then going to dinner at Rainforest Cafe afterwards.
Oh, God.
Pour one out for our fallen homies.
Yeah. Now you're...
Nice.
Rainforest Cafe, did that chain close in Canada, too?
I believe there is only one location left in the country, and it's in Niagara Falls, I think.
Of course. Just like how there's one Outback Steakhouse left in Canada, and that's in Niagara Falls, too. So, anyways, more nostalgic toys.
Speaking of restaurants, you guys remember Happy Meal toys?
Oh!
We might as well get to one of the big heavy hitters tonight.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
This is before the days of apple slices too.
Oh yeah.
True.
Well, this was
And
okay.
books.
The McDonald's Happy Meal toys. My most memorable one. Okay, I know Lyle doesn't particularly care for this movie, and I don't know how Josh feels about it, but Disney's Dinosaur had the coolest Happy Meal. They had hand puppets. Like, you had Aladar, Crone, Nira, I believe, and I don't know how I remember
these characters' names. My God,
I love the movie, and I don't love it.
Movie.
Avatar, Madagascar.
Oh yeah.
Drive My Car.
Oh yeah. So I had Carnotaur. I had the Carnotaur. I know I wanted the Carnotaur hand puppets so bad.
Carnotaur, Pescatariator, Vegator, Vegantor.
So, anyways, I started Dinosauring.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Then I started eating. I remember. I don't know which one I had. I think I had the bad one. I don't know.
I
the
definitely had the
red
Aladar
one.
one.
And what
That's
I would
Chrome.
do is with my friends is we'd be in a sandbox and I push the hand puppet under the sand and I would make it shoot out of the sand like in Dune or Beetlejuice.
Like in Dune.
And it kind of like I kind of made
Dune
my own
Dino
homemade.
Wars, that'd be neat.
Made my own homemade Tremors remake. So there's that. before I had
Yeah.
even seen Tremors. But that's all I remember doing with those.
I've been thinking about watching Dinosaur again.
Hey, I mean, it's okay. The visual effects, some people say they don't hold up. To me, they look
They're
okay.
fine for the year 2000.
They're fine for the year 2000. I don't think that, like, compared to stuff today, like, it doesn't hold up, but for the time it was appropriate. It's okay. The James Newton Howard score is phenomenal. Some of the scenes are pretty decent, but it's kind of an movie. And by the way, I loved when I was a kid. I loved dinosaurs, but I don't want to go off on a tangent because
What other Happy Meal toys do you remember?
Oh!
I remember. Speaking of mediocre movies, you guys remember Inspector Gadget?
Inspector Gadget.
May have
like
been an
this.
underwhelming adaptation that somehow got a direct-to-video sequel, but its toy combination is probably the most iconic thing McDonald's has or ever will do.
More iconic than
you
Szechuan
collect all
sauce?
of them and build a
Yes,
a
Evan,
Megazord.
more iconic than Szechuan sauce.
A Matthew Broderick Megazord.
Yeah.
I know, I got it the Broad Resort.
The Broad Resort.
Broadsword.
Ferris Bueller's mega combination.
Yeah.
He's having a
Yeah, that
day
was
off,
neat.
alright.
I know that I had a friend of mine growing up that had the entire set, and now I believe my wife at home, she has the entire set.
Nice.
She has the entire set of the Inspector Gadget toy.
Yes, I believe so. I mean, we
Oh,
are going
God.
to visit her mom tomorrow, so I will check. But
Huh.
I think she has a few sets of Happy Meal toys like that.
Yeah.
Good God.
But that was kind of
Yeah.
neat. That was one of the few instances of you take all the pieces and they combine together. And granted, it's a pretty Frankenstein-esque combination, but
It's
then
a little
again, so
weird.
was that movie's version of Inspector Gadget, so
Well.
it fit.
I wouldn't mind just seeing all the doodads that he had.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yes.
I think
The
you can
fire
get- I-
extinguisher arm.
Yeah.
Was he full of toothpaste?
Yeah.
God, that would be a terrible way to brush your teeth.
Yeah.
You'd just be wasting toothpaste, and you'd have to go get a refill.
Hey, I didn't write the film. Another one I really
God.
liked was Recess, like the one where they all
Oh,
had
yeah!
sports
That was
equipment,
good.
And they
I had
knocked
the
balls
I had
around.
the Vince figure.
I had TJ and Gus. I know that
Ah,
much.
nice.
Don't believe I had any from that line. I think this is a few years later, but I definitely remember some of the toys from the Spy Kids 2 promo.
Yeah, there were a few Spy Kids toys. I remember I had the watch and the
I
scanner.
had
I
Ralph's
guess.
head.
Oh yeah,
The
Ralph.
Robo Spider.
Yeah.
It was either the head or the
Robot.
arm part, like a little wrist arm thingy.
Yeah, it was
was
kind
one
of
of those.
designed like a flip phone, and you could put it on your hand. I mean, it's ambitious. It's another combination toy. The problem is, if I lived out in the country, so going to McDonald's was kind of like it was like a every once in a blue moon. So sometimes I'd have these collections, and they'd be so incomplete. It'd be like trying to get that Yu-Gi-Oh card, Exodia.
Oh God. Oh,
Yeah.
Exodia. Well, I mean, as someone that's
no,
played
he's
Yu-Gi-Oh,
incomplete.
that played Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, Exodia's kind of it was kind of hard to get them
Now-
get all 5 parts.
Now, are we counting card games as a toy?
No,
So children's card games like Pokemon,
No, that's
Yu-Gi-Oh.
just an aside.
that was just an aside. I was making a comparison, Evan. Calm your tits.
So, I've got a couple of heavy hitters myself, but I kind of want to work into it. Here's one that I don't know if we should count it as a toy, but the Rubik's Cube.
That's a toy.
The Rubik's
Oh.
Cube. Yeah, I can
Oh, and
never
those
figure
VHS
I feel,
clamshell things from McDonald's
I
too.
feel super dumb. I've never been able to complete a Rubik's Cube.
Look, I'm right there with you.
Why-
I can watch people
Me
solve it
three.
all day. I can't solve that. Although I
They make
think
them
I'm gonna
look so
brag about my
easy.
wife again.
There are people on YouTube who can like do them underwater. They can do like 10
Yeah,
Rubik's Cubes
like the idea of
underwater.
speed running a Rubik's Cube, or like it's nice to be able to make content like that and solve it underwater or
Wait.
in a air tunnel or whatever it is. But
How are people able to like
pattern memorization.
solve stuff underwater?
Oh, that's maybe just good scuba equipment.
Oh yeah.
No, they
No,
hold
but
their
I think
breath.
Marnie had told me a story a few days ago about she just like picked up her dad's Rubik's Cube one day and then I think like solved it in a few minutes or something, or it maybe was a little longer than that, but she was just like, no, leave it alone. It's I don't want to have to do this again. Or something to that effect, so I think it's still there in its finished state.
Nice. Yeah, I could never solve. Don't feel bad, Lyle. I could never solve a Rubik's cube myself. So
Where's
you're
Will
preaching to the
Smith when
choir.
you need him?
Do you know that? Fun fact: the real Chris Gardner that movie's based off of, he never actually was able to solve a Rubik's cube for his boss. Will Smith just threw that in because he likes Rubik's cubes.
Okay, sure.
Is this Pursuit of Happiness?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pursuit of
Okay, I was
Happiness.
wondering why I barely
Happiness,
remembered that.
Yeah.
No, like I think this kind of counts as a toy/activity. So while girls had easy bake ovens and things like that, boys had a little thing called creepy crawlers.
Mm.
Oh, is that gummy candy thing?
Well, it looks like gummies, but I assure you, I don't think it tastes like it. It's basically the easy bake oven, but for boys, where you basically make various types of insects in an oven.
Yeah, it can't be for boys if it's not gross. Am I right? I always wanted an easy bake oven. That's like one of the few toys. It's like I wish I could have had back in the day.
It's a good sort of gateway thing for kids to learn how to cook in some ways, because you can make real recipes, and they did taste decent. I mean, obviously the quality in the ingredients was at that time was not going to be like Michelin star award winning or anything like that, but as like an edible snack food at the time, it was fine enough.
Yeah, I know. It's like I guess my parents thought it wasn't very masculine of me to have an easy bake oven, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I always kind of
Bust
wanted
through those
one.
gender norms.
Those commercials made me so hungry. It's like I want to make a little pizza. Come on. Oh well.
Speaking of, I don't know if these count as toys, but do you guys remember baby bottle pops?
That's not
That's
a toy. That's more a
candy.
snack thing.
Candy,
It's
okay,
a
forget it.
candy thing. Although the Jonas Brothers were in commercials for that later at some point.
They were.
Yeah, in like
Yeah.
the late 2000s. I remember seeing.
So
some
I
on
guess.
YouTube a few
So
months
does that
ago.
mean? So I guess Sucker makes this whole thing kind of come full
I'm a
circle.
sucker for you.
I like that. I don't give a shit. I like that song. It's
I
catchy.
could have tied that into a lollipop commercial, but nothing will ever be as iconic
Right?
as Lollipop by the Cordettes. Not that other Lollipop.
Oh yeah. When did that?
So one toy I remember specifically playing all the time in like at recess on the concrete, just sitting down, and that was Beyblades.
Oh
little
yeah.
Yes.
There was
As that
nothing
one
more
song goes,
entertaining.
Kids are doing it all across the nation. Time to battle now for world domination. They're cool and they're hip. You better get a grip. The battle has begun, so let it rip.
How the heck do you remember that song?
Shout out to Big Fun Party Mix 4.
Ah,
White
I had that album too.
Yeah, no, but Beyblades were fun. They were kind of just like spinning top toys, and of course, I didn't really have like the best Beyblades in the world. I got dollar store style ones, but it was still fun just to watch these kids like have like this little plastic stadium that they could just like rip, and if it got knocked into the hole or if it ran out of juice, you would lose. Just simple pleasures like that. It's kind of things that were fun to watch. Me personally, I didn't have the plastic stadium, so I had to make do with a frying pan.
Yeah. I had a plastic stadium. Now, when you say dollar store Beyblades, I remember you could buy them at the dollar store, but they were the low grade ones. Where did you get the high grade ones, like the toy
I
store?
don't know, like Toys R Us and Walmart and stuff. Like I didn't have ones like, this is Max's Beyblade. This is Tyson's Beyblade. This is Seto Kaiba's Beyblade.
Screw the rules. I'm letting it rip.
Yes.
I had some Beyblades myself, but I'm like, I think at that point it was like towards the middle of elementary school, so I was kind of aging out of, toys from anime shows. I remember Bakugan being a thing, but I could never understand what the concept of that was.
Yeah, that was so foreign
or chaotic.
to me. It seems...
Okay. I remember Yu-Gi-Oh had action figures, and I had a couple. I remember having.
I had a Dark Magician, dude. That guy was my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card. So
he was a cool toy.
To have that was so awesome. My little violent
I
Vanisher.
definitely didn't have any figures, just the cards.
Yeah. I had a Dark Magician figure. I had a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon figurine.
Yeah, the big ones, the powerful ones that every character used 1,000 times throughout the show. It's isn't it amazing how they can make like an anime show based on a toy? and
well,
they're
kind of
they
toy
have this
related. They
symbiotic.
would have like the physical, actual dual, like it would be an arm mounted, like the card thing.
The dual discs.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
dual,
like a dual disc, but an arm mounted
arm
one that,
bracelet.
like in the show, it would like switch positions, so it would look
The
like
dual discs
like an
were
arm blade.
Yeah, I
The
never
dual
had
discs
one
were
of those.
so cool.
Because
Why
none
are
of
they
my
remember
called
friends played
discs when they're
Yu-Gi-Oh.
clearly not like round?
I remember my brother got a dual disc, and it was actually outfitted so that you could put your cards on the disc. I'm like, this is
Yeah, I
the
know.
coolest
I
thing
didn't have
ever.
one of those.
Oh, my brother did. It was fun.
You guys remember
That's
Mighty
fascinating.
Beans?
Yes.
Mighty Beans.
They're on the
I
scene.
I remember the commercial. I don't remember.
I had like this little blue tube, and the idea was you had to balance the tube while you tilt it, and your Mighty Bean would go all the way back and all the way forward. And you can make it flip and try to catch it in midair. It was fun, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really understand the point of them. I guess you race them or whatever, or you just collect them.
I think it's a mix of both. It's like you're supposed to collect them, but like because there's the magnet inside, it causes it to like roll a certain way. So it's not an exact cylinder.
No.
You know, it was for me. It was I remember Mighty Beans, and a few years before, for all the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater fans out there that needed to get their skateboarding fix in a more portable way, Tech Decks.
I was wondering when someone was going to bring those up.
Tech
Tech
Deck BWE
Decks.
trick borders. That's the only part that I remember. Yeah, those were neat. You could actually do some really interesting things, and it also helped teach finger dexterity because I saw some videos of people doing some pretty decent things with recreating some sort of tricks with your fingers, and you could get some grinds going. It's a fun. I wouldn't say it's a time waster, but it's a fun little mini skate activity.
No.
Oh yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
No, I'm surprised that Tony Hawk didn't do another sort of licensed version of those when they did the remaster of Pro Skater 1 and 2 a few years ago.
Yeah, I guess it just the fad died out.
Yeah, maybe the time passed.
Oh,
they had a BMX equivalent too. Like you could do the
Oh, really?
BMX
Yes!
stuff.
that was cool. Like with the little gloves that you put on your fingers.
Yeah,
and
though
you-
that was kind of interesting, but like, I don't know. You might as well just put a full an actual regular sized biking glove on your hand and do that.
Now,
Speaking of gloves,
but did you guys were you guys ever big on like race car toys, or and I'm not just talking like the little die cast Hot Wheels stuff. I'm talking like I'm talking Hot Wheels stuff, or like just toy cars in general.
Yeah,
Like,
I have
toy
some
vehicles.
toy cars. They're
I had
all
a
at home,
collection.
but
Yeah.
they don't have. And
What-
sometimes it was like not just cars, but I had like some random like double decker buses and other types of vehicles.
Yeah.
I do
wasn't
remember a
much of
few of the
a-
cars I had were like McDonald's themed ones.
Ah, very nice.
Oh, yeah. I remember I had an Oscar Mayer Wiener car. I remember that.
Oh.
Ah, yes. I wonder if that critic guy could sing the song.
Everyone would be in love with me.
John Lovett's voice not included.
Oh, he knows the hot dog song.
I want
Did
to
it
watch that
actually
episode
say
now.
the jingle when you drove, or it's just branded with Oscar
No, it was
Mayer
just
stuff?
It was a Hot Wheel.
Yeah.
I got.
I
it
almost
at
thought it
the-
was a hot dog.
I got it at the Ford Museum when I was there.
Oh, that's nice.
You went to the Ford Museum?
I guess that's in
Yeah, I
Detroit
did.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's in Detroit. It was neat.
That's epic.
Got to see
now,
the thing in the flesh. Yeah.
That's very neat.
But I just got it because I liked hot dogs. I didn't really have any formal education on the thing.
Well, while you went to while you went to car museums, I went to air museums, and the stuff I would get at those gift shops, that was another big part of my childhood. Model airplanes, and occasionally plastic model airplanes that my dad and I would build on the weekends. But for a lot of my childhood, I did collect die-cast metal planes. They were cool.
And the detail on a lot of them was very impressive.
Right, yeah, because I guess you took a look at them.
I've seen them a few times, yeah.
You've seen my collection, yeah. Yeah. It was, those were cool. I also, you're bringing me back, just model airplanes. In fact, I still collected a few of them, even like when I was a teenager. The last one I owned is a model of the Spitfire, a legendary plane from World War II. So, yeah.
I wonder if you'll have a dedicated shelf for more stuff like that in the future.
I mean, at the new place, here's hoping. Yeah, it's gonna be, yeah. I definitely want to dedicate a shelf at my new place to aviation or airplanes. In fact, because I have a model of the F-14, the plane from Top Gun, and I have an F-18 of the same scale from Top Gun Maverick. So I want to put those two on a shelf, and I want to have my DVD copy of the first Top Gun next to the F-14.
That gives me an interesting idea. Why isn't there a line of die-cast plane models of the planes from Maverick?
There are I think Matchbox has you covered. If you want to Google this right now, look up like Top Gun Maverick. There weren't any action figures of like Maverick or Rooster or Phoenix or Bob.
Wow,
Bob.
They have an aircraft carrier set.
Oh, from Matchbox?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I guess they had to capitalize on that because
I would think it makes sense, to cater to that audience, and it's nice at least because like the biggest selling movie of the year might as well have a solid selling merch line to go with it.
Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
Yes.
Except maybe not Top Gun Maverick, the flamethrower.
The kids love this one.
Although it would have been funnier if Maverick's just like walking down the runway with a flamethrower and he's looking like the pyro from Team Fortress 2.
Wait, is this the night Maverick went crazy?
No, because then we need to have Weird Al in flight gear.
Yeah.
That's an entirely different tangent.
Yeah.
I remember when I was really young, I had this, like, if we're talking about, like, models, I used to have, like, this construction set. It was, I didn't know the name of it. I looked it up recently. It's called, excuse me, the Ray construction set. And what it was, it was
right
like, yeah,
or Ray?
Ray, like a energy ray of sunshine. Yeah. Anyways, it was like, it had a crane, and it had, like, a bulldozer and all that. I had, like, 20, like, minifigures of like little construction men. They were all yellow, and they had like bases. They were kind of like army men. But what's interesting is like when the older you get, eventually these pieces you end up losing them over time. But there was one that stuck by, and it was like this little guy. It looked like he was always bent over to hold a wheelbarrow, and eventually I kept him for like pretty much most of my life, and I gave him a nickname. I called him Peanut because he was like, yellow and upside of peanut. So and it's like I would always put him in like anytime I needed a minifigure for like a science fair project, I always put him there. Anytime I needed a little handyman during my playtimes, he was always there. Unfortunately, I tried finding him recently just for the sake of this podcast. I don't know where he ended up. He might be back in the Android dungeon, Evan. I may have to check.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know, a little part of me felt a little sad that Peanut wasn't with me, so I don't know. It's crazy, it's like how like a little minifigure stuck with me all this time.
Yeah.
In fact, my dad even remembers him. Like I'll mention him. He's like, "Oh yeah, that guy."
Yeah.
Man, it was
That's
like
awesome.
I remember a similar type of construction set, not the same brand obviously, but I had some sort of similar small vehicles, and of course, when you think of kids' construction toys, there's only one brand that comes to mind, and that's Tonka.
Tonka.
Tonka, you love Tonka. That was terrible, I'm sorry.
I inherited a Tonka toy dump truck from my mother when I was growing up.
Very nice.
Yeah, Tonkas are classics.
I never had the toys, but I did have the CD-ROM games where you had to like do search and rescue and stuff.
Oh, I played one of those. Those were fun.
Yeah,
I think I have something like that.
I have more memories of like Rescue Heroes actually. You guys remember Rescue Heroes?
Yes.
People with the big feet, and they would like each have these super powerful weapons that they would use to save people. But
then it's not really Rescue Heroes; it's Rescue Weapons.
Well, maybe they're more like tools. But I remember I had one guy who was like a fireman, and he had like this giant axe gun, like these rotating axes that would chop away at everything. I'm like, you could kill someone with this. I'm just
Mm.
saying. But yeah, no, I remember
Wow.
rescue
I
heroes.
forgot
Everyone I
that was
knew
a
had
thing.
them.
Oh man, that
Uh,
was. It's more of a minor toy for me, but I've always loved Slinkies.
Mm.
Slinkies are kind of fun. I always end up breaking them though.
No.
It depends though. The metal ones are more like either they rust or again they get really tangled or they get too sharp because metal can do that. The plastic ones are the ones you worry about actually getting tangled up or just like after a
Yeah.
while if you pull certain parts too much they can actually like start to
Yeah,
develop their own spin.
that's what I didn't like about Slinkies. You damage them once, they're useless, like forever. It's kind of sad. But
Kind of a cursed slogan in a way. Damage it once, it's useless forever.
now, I remember, speaking of Slinkies, from the Toy Story line, I remember having a Slinky dog figurine, but he got damaged too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Toy Story, man. Oh my god. Do you know, those toys were cool, like back in 95,
Actually, it reminds me
96.
of the McDonald's toy. It was like the Toy Story 2 line that had like all these nerds, like the nerd candies, and you could put them inside
yeah.
the toys. I found
Oh,
you
yeah.
that Woody, Evan, actually at a garage sale, and I got it for you. 'Cause
Yeah, I appreciate
I
that.
personally
Thank
had a potato head.
Yeah.
This potato head guy, but that was the only one I had.
I was
Actually,
growing up with Disney stuff and still the age of like VHS type stuff, and there was that one Happy Meal line where there were certain characters on the clamshell VHS cases that could be linked together to form a train, but specifically, I think Toy Story wise, I think it would have been something from the Toy Story 2 toy line. I'm not sure if it was the Little Green Man or if it was any character in particular. But I think at home I still have a non-pull string Woody doll.
I have it. Oh, Lyle and I have the same pull string Woody doll. Lyle, just like me,
I
I want
mine,
Lyle to
it
tell.
doesn't have a pull string.
Lyle once told me a really touching story that I don't know you've ever heard, Josh. About he told me the story of how he got that Woody doll, and I can tell you the story how he got
I'm
my.
in the room. I can tell it. I also
Yeah,
remember
I'm saying you tell it.
I had the army man too with the parachute. I just remembered that. But yeah, so like I got Woody when I was in Disney World. My family we were just leaving the park, and my dad, I guess, misplaced the rental car keys, so we had to sort out the paperwork and all that to try and find a way back to the hotel. So while we were waiting there for like over 2 hours, my mom took me to the gift shop just outside. And she said, "Well, you can have any toy you want. Which one do you want?" And I immediately gravitated towards Full String Woody because, like, Woody was my favorite character in Toy Story. So, interestingly, I've never had a Buzz. I don't know why. I think it's because
I had a Buzz.
I didn't really like Buzz when I was a kid. I don't know. Nowadays I can't see either of them apart.
I had a Buzz.
But
Yeah.
no, I never had a Buzz.
I didn't
Josh,
have a
you gotta-
Lightyear though. I
Josh,
just had a
you got it.
Buzz.
Oh, okay. They re-released toys for Lightyear too, and yeah.
Well,
Like, you
first
see-
we have to get past Lightyear 1 before we have a Lightyear 2.
Oh yeah. But anyway, so
That
I-
finish on mine was very nice though.
do you know I got a Woody too, but the story of how I got like my first Buzz Lightyear toy was actually quite something. Okay, you know how there was that little quip line in Toy Story 2? Back in 1995, short-sighted retailers did not order enough dolls to meet demand. And that's actually like extremely true because I remember like when I saw Toy Story, I'm like, Buzz Lightyear was like the one toy I wanted, like just so badly to exist so I could play with it. And then I will never forget this. My mom and dad took me to a toy shop down by Queens Quay at the Harborfront, and it was like a day trip, and we walked in this toy shop, and on top of the shelf I see like the Buzz Lightyear, and I can't believe my eyes. I'm like, you know how like when kids see something and it's like I want it, like that was me, like, oh my god. And when I took it home, like, granted the detail wasn't quite the same as what he was like in the movie, but I just like it was the best toy ever, like.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I remember the finish on mine, I think, was like a chrome or silver
Yes!
kind of thing. It was interesting because I thought it was like, I don't know if it was supposed to be like some ultra patriotic, like American soldier-esque version of it at the time, or if it was just,
I think
a
just
collector's
Chris Chrome
thing.
was cool.
But it looked neat and made me sort of wonder why he didn't sort of have that at some point in the film, but
Do you know what I think it
I don't know
was?
where it is now.
He never goes chrome, but he does. They established that Buzz can glow in the dark. That's
Yeah.
maybe what they were
Lightyear
trying
1. They've gone to chrome.
to...
Smoke them if you got them.
It's so funny because
This is our
a few months
second
ago.
time quoting Spaceballs now.
Yeah.
Never enough times to quote that.
Nope.
Speaking of what we've quoted so far, we've quoted Arthur and The Simpsons on
And
this
Star
show.
Wars.
And Star Wars.
Yeah,
we're just
things that can
we're just ticking
change
off all the
and move
reference
around,
cliches.
and if you want, you can make them small enough to fit in your pocket, or they're big enough to, be replicated in CGI. Transformers.
Yeah.
I never liked Transformers, to be honest. A lot of 80s stuff I didn't really gravitate towards. He-Man.
I haven't watched a lot of
Teenage
G1
Mutant Ninja
Transformers.
Turtles.
For me, it was Beast Wars. That was the era for me. Yeah, it was CGI, and it was early, like 90s CG, but what was known as Mainframe, now Rainmaker Entertainment, they made some salt between Beast Wars / Beasties, whatever you want to call it, and Reboot. I thought they did some good stuff. But the toy line, I remember having an Optimus Primal, and that was neat, albeit a little complicated because that's the first example of you have to look at the instructions to see how to actually get the toy to transform properly.
Right.
Yeah, you know what, Josh? I distinctly remember. Were you into Beast Wars?
Yes,
Like at any point?
Beast Wars was really good. I liked the show. There was actually a video game sort of spin-off thing. Wasn't too into that, but the show itself, it was like that was like where I first connected. Like, you could actually have the figures that look really neat when you like transform them properly, and it looks how they do on the show, kind of.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel in terms of fast forwarding to the present day? How do you feel about did you see the trailer for the what is it, sixth Transformers
What is it? Is
movie?
it Beasts of
Sixth
Burden?
one.
It's called like
Dawn of the
Transformers,
Beasts?
Eye of the Beast or something. I can't remember what it's called, but I don't know if it doesn't look.
Rise of
you know
the
what's-
Beasts.
Rise of the Beast.
Well, let's see. We already had a Rise of the Planet of the Apes and all the extremely long sequels that come with it. It's nice that Beast Wars as a whole is coming back into favor with people, because obviously after the Bay era, I think they needed a bit of a reset, and Bumblebee is kind of like that. But I think Transformers are one of those toy lines that are kind of evergreen in a way, between re-releasing a lot of the older lines. Like, the novelty of a toy like Soundwave, which could actually turn into a cassette player, like a Walkman type thing, and you could have, I think, other similar figures that would turn into cassette tapes that you could put in there. I don't know if it would play anything, but just the novelty of replicating the more, not utilitarian, but the more useful aspects of what they were meant to turn into. But before it was just all car or vehicle. Like, there were the more unorthodox ones.
Yeah.
You know what
And then I
remember?
also remember the Transmetals line, too. I had an Optimus Primal that was like the Transmetal variant.
Yeah. I was never into Transformers, but when the Bay movies came out, I actually I got one Transformer ever. It was Ironhide. And that's pretty much it.
I was just gonna say, Evan, you're a Spider-Man fan, right?
Am I?
We didn't dress up as him for Halloween.
Oh,
or anything.
man. Yeah.
Did you ever have-
Hey, didn't one of you have to carry the other for some reason?
I had to carry him because he got stabbed.
I got stabbed for no reason at all in the movie, just to cheap out the audience. But anyways,
Yeah.
I digress. Did any of you have these Spider-Man shooters? The
I
wrist
was thinking about that
devices?
earlier, actually.
What is
I
it?
never
What does
did,
it
but they
do?
seemed cool.
Is that stuff silly string?
Yeah, it had
It's
a silly
whatever
string.
you want it to be.
It had a silly string canister. It also had a little, dart gun too.
Yeah.
And it even had a lamp that you could shoot at people too. I guess like a red light.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
I
just a lamp.
remember-
Here, have a lamp.
I felt like a badass. I felt like you better not mess with me. I'm Spider-Man. I'm gonna do. Psst. I'm gonna make you angry by covering you up in smelly, silly string. I went all over the room, and it was kind of like that first scene in Spider-Man where he shoots his webbing everywhere. it's just like,
where he shoots his webbing everywhere.
yeah, you know,
It goes all over his room.
he's a young man.
You know, like you do.
Okay, so hey, that's his line. You know what?
In fact, it's
Okay, if
kind
we're
of
gonna-
ironic.
If we're gonna be stealing each other's catchphrases, and we're back.
It's kind of ironic because I specifically remember the last toy that I ever wanted before I kind of grew out of it was a Spider-Man 3 last final battle stand kind of thing. It was like the construction
Like where you had
site.
Sandman, Venom.
Yeah, it was like New Goblin, Spider-Man versus Sandman and Venom, and I was like, I really want that because that was my favorite part of the movie. And then it's like my parents were like, no, Lyle, you can't have it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then for some reason, something in my brain just clicked that I couldn't ask for toys anymore because my parents wouldn't get it.
Wow.
So that was like, looking back on now, it's like, because I really liked play sets, and there's one that I have here that was like really like the best play set I ever had. And I'm not sure if either of you had it, but it was called the Fisher-Price Castle.
Something
Yes, I
seems
think I
vaguely
had
familiar
something like
about
it.
that.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty iconic toy from the '90s. It was like a 3-tower action set where you had one that had a trapdoor and your little knights could fall down into
With
the
real
dungeon.
trapping action.
And then there was like a moat and a drawbridge in the front of it, and there's also this fucking cannon on it that could detach and you could shoot it at people. And these little gray balls, it was amazing. And like, I don't know, I would craft so many action scenes and sieges on this little plastic
You know what
castle.
you could have done to combine the worlds together? Take the cannonballs, somehow retrofit them to fit in the web shooter, and just shoot cannonballs at people. That'd be
web ball.
fascinating.
That's how you
I mean,
hit.
I mean, if you've played the PS1 Spider-Man games, you can shoot like those web balls that will like explode on contact.
Oh, web shots, yeah.
Yeah, web shots work, and there was the web dome as well.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
that
you
was a
gotta
good
protect-
time.
Yeah, big web bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, in any
Speaking of
case, I
sticky
love that.
things that no one remembers, GAC.
Gak?
Yeah,
Oh, what's that?
GAC. Well, basically, it was like Nickelodeon's sort of version of making slime that you could play with. Before a lot of science clubs taught you how to make your own slime.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I think I remember I had something like that. We were at this little pavilion one night, and there was this like street vendor that was like selling this gack stuff. It was kind of like, I thought it was like Play-Doh. It's really more like some sort of silly putty. It was like really slimy and it has a really nice sheen to it.
That
So
sounds
I
like
was-
it, all right.
I was hungry, so I had a yellow, red, and green. So I made like a hot dog out of it, and I squished it together. And the vendor wasn't too pleased. He's like, "Oh no, you mixed it together. You're not supposed to mix the colors together." I'm like, "Why? I do it all the time with Play-Doh." Well, this isn't Play-Doh. And that's when I learned you don't make hot dogs in the street, Lyle.
And you don't cross the streams.
You don't cross the gack.
The GAC streams.
The
Yeah.
slime.
GAC stream! Do the do!
Yeah.
Still better than Jack X. Anyways.
Oh god, we still haven't gotten to some of the really heavy hitters. So, people obviously
No?
talked about this, but what were any of your experiences with the with the artist formerly known as Tickle Me Elmo?
Tickle Me Elmo?
Right.
I never had Tickle Me Elmo.
I had a friend of mine who had a Tickle Me Elmo, but I know they were popular. Very popular.
Yeah, they were the Christmas toy of, I want to say it was 1996. It was in the mid-late 90s where like that was all parents were getting, you know. It was like before the Nintendo Wii became the holiday gift of that time.
I thought the N64 was the holiday gift of all time.
Well, I guess like any Nintendo console that isn't the
Yeah.
GameCube or the Wii U, as
Yeah.
good as those consoles are. Well, the Wii U was a little overhated, but Tickle Me Elmo was like, it was one of the first really big Sesame Street toys in decades, simply because it was Elmo, and Elmo was the face of Sesame Street at that point. And you'd tickle it, and he'd laugh, and then, you know, it would kind of
Wait, Elmo was the
it would
face of
change how
Sesame
you
Street?
viewed the character.
I always saw Big Bird as the face of Sesame Street.
I'm saying at that time it shifted from
yeah,
Big Bird
at
to
that time,
Elmo,
yeah.
but yeah, it's
Yeah.
for me. This is another episode idea, but it's like Big Bird, Grover, Bert and Ernie, Cookie Monster, Elmo's somewhere in there. By that
Pretty
one,
much.
I remember Okay, so this is more of a toy store related question because it's not around anymore. But one thing I would have wished I would have been able to do before it closed was go to an FAO Schwartz store, particularly the one in Times Square, because that was a big location.
Okay, so here's the thing. The iconic FAO Schwartz location was across the street from Central Park. That location did close. I had gone there many times when I was younger.
Yeah, same.
It's cool, but FAO Schwartz didn't actually... I thought they closed forever. No, they just relocated. Their new store is in the Rockefeller Center, and Lyle and I did go when we were in New York.
Or at least the brand is still around.
Yeah,
but
I got
now
to see the big piano.
The big piano. Not just the piano, the big, as in big from the movie Big
the piano from Big.
the big piano.
How big is it? It's actually not that big.
You can't play it for long.
Now, I feel like,
Is it like the No Stairway thing from Wayne's World, where if you try to play the theme from the movie, they just like kick you out of the store?
I just don't know how to play a piano, so I would just make a lot of noise.
While we're on the topic of legendary toy stores, I don't know if you guys have ever been, but I went to the Toys R Us in Times Square. It's the stuff of legends. Like,
I saw a YouTube video on it earlier this year. Like, chronicling
it's
the peak
great.
Of
it was great, and I should say was because most Toys R Us's in the U.S. closed. So
I think
now
they've
it's
started
not there
to reopen
anymore.
things in some capacity in the last year.
They should, if they bring back the Toys R Us in Times Square, that would be great.
I mean, you can't go wrong with a Ferris wheel.
Okay, so now that I've told you about the best Toys R Us I've ever been to there's more than just a Ferris wheel. There's a giant Empire State Lego creation with. There's even a Lego King Kong on top of him. There's a life-size T-Rex from Jurassic Park. It's so... And it moves, too. There's just so much cool stuff. And it's like 4 floors. It's incredible. But,
Evans,
you know what else I remember?
Word.
Yeah, the L word.
No, Evan, the other L word. Loves?
Loves?
Lego.
Okay.
Mania. Lego Mania.
God, this is a massive pillar in my childhood.
The Legos. Oh my god.
Yeah. There's so many iterations.
I remember my first set was the one with like C-3PO and R2-D2 and the escape pod when they crash landed on Tatooine. That was pretty easy.
Yeah. That's a very basic set
for one of us.
That was an easy set. I was kind of young, so I didn't really get the big sets. But I remember one time I think the biggest set I ever had was the Hogwarts Castle that I built in like grade 11 or something. And I finished it. I had it proudly displayed. And then for like about a month or two, until my grandpa came over, and he accidentally knocked it over, and it like completely got destroyed. And by then, I just didn't have the instruction booklet anymore, so kind of just junk. But one thing I remember is like back in high school, I used to like do stop motion animation with my Legos. Like I would do like little scenarios.
Oh, seriously?
With, like, yeah, I would do stuff like Stormtroopers. I had like a mini series called Chuck and Steve. It's like one's like the greatest sharpshooter of them all, like the best Stormtrooper with 100% accuracy. The other one's just completely brain dead. And all he wants to eat is chocolate. Yeah, it was back in the day. Humor is what it is now. Yeah. But and it's right here.
Nice.
But in any case,
look at that.
My first Star Wars Lego set ever was, I think it was Anakin Skywalker's Pod Racer from The Phantom Menace. But eventually, I got the X-Wing, and my prized possession was the Imperial Shuttle. I never got a Millennium Falcon, though, as tempting as that was.
Well, maybe you can get a new one now, or you can get a set. You can make that a challenge. Build the Millennium Falcon in a weekend.
Build the Millennium Falcon out of Lego.
You just need some beer, some ingenuity, and a whole lot of free time.
Nah, I'm getting weed for that. I don't want to drink a bunch of beer
like
and play with Legos.
You need to focus very
Lyle, doesn't
carefully
that
on putting pieces together.
Lyle, doesn't that sound like a recipe for disaster? Just beer and Legos?
What are you talking about? Like, what are you doing? Drunk Lego building?
I wonder if
And
we
you
should try
accidentally-
that.
You accidentally like, step on them, and it's just like, doesn't hurt so bad because I'm too
Fiddle
wasted.
DD, that will require a tetanus shot.
I'm not going to swear, but I'm gonna get this falcon down! Gah! Gah! Gah!
Oh, we kid, because we love.
Yes. But yeah, Legos. God, I remember, what else? By the way, I remember having like a Lego Spaceman, and yes, those, just like that little detail in the Lego movie, those helmets were notorious for breaking. It took them decades to fix that problem.
The gang fixes a spaceman's helmet today on It's Always Sunny in Lego World.
Oh, yeah. Now, what did you guys think of the Lego movie that came out in 2014?
I thought it was really well done.
The Lego, yeah, I know. I remember seeing it in the theater, and I was
It sort
like,
of set a new precedent in that the new video games now actually have the voices of the people in the movie.
oh yeah, like Chris Pratt, Elizabeth Banks.
Well, yeah, the Lego Movie video game does. It's basically like a recreation of the movie in a lot of ways. I think a lot of the voices are the same. It was more for like later, like the Lego Star Wars stuff and other ones that basically just use audio from the movie and work in the lip sync later.
Yeah.
It was just a nice, faithful way to take the spirit of Lego and put it on the big screen for kids in the 2010s to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the better ones. Actually, I would say it's the best.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Lego Batman movie's kind of like below that.
I
It's
find that
solid
movie
enough.
overrated. It's just fine. I don't know.
What
It
about
turns
the
into
Ninjago one?
I didn't even see that one, and that was the last one. So, oh wait, no, they made a sequel to Lego Movie. I haven't even seen that one.
Yeah, the second one.
It's called the second part, I believe.
I kind of feel it didn't need a sequel, but then again, like
I
Lego
haven't seen it yet either. I did see the Lego Batman movie though. That was cool.
There were so many like offshoots of Lego. I think there was Dual Lego. What's the Duo? I forget what the sort of preschool equivalent is.
Oh,
Duplo?
Duplo.
Duplo.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's not bad. I remember this is more of a for the more advanced, computer literate kids out there, Lego Mindstorms, where you could basically program complex or some semi-complex things and that you've built with Lego in a computer program, and it would actually execute the directions. That was kind of neat. I mean, obviously a lot of it was above my skill level, but I respect it. The only, I can say, Lego set, like aside from like brief mentions of Chima, Ninjago, and some of the other like licensed IPs, was the World of Bionicle.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
I knew we were gonna touch
Bionicles.
on this.
I was more interested in the lore, to be honest, and while there were like some direct-to-video movies and stuff in the 2000s, I just liked the idea of it was a set of characters that was more than just putting things together. There was actually depth and story to it, and it kind of felt like something that could exist on its own.
Yeah.
In that sort of quasi-fantasy science fiction-y way. It did did kind of feel a little Power Rangers-esque, though. There were 5, and then there was a 6th, and there was a whole... The Mask of Light thing was basically a vehicle to introduce the 6th one.
Yeah.
I remember one Lego spin-off that I really got into was let me quickly look at the name. Galador.
Oh
You guys
yeah,
remember?
isn't that? I don't know if that's a Lego spin-off, but I remember the show that was on Fox Kids.
Yeah, it was owned by Lego. It was like these toys that
Yeah, Defenders of the Outer Dimension.
They had the arms, they had the heads, they had the body, they had the legs, and you could basically switch out any part of the action
I had a
figure.
toy. I had one of those toys.
And then sometimes they'd have wings or like frog legs or like a robot arm or something. It was a really fascinating idea. It's kind of like just like mix and match action figures, which aren't like anything new. But I remember when I was a kid, I got really into this. And I mean, it didn't last very long. It was kind of just like a kind of bit the dust pretty early. But I remember the toy line just being really, really fun. And I think it was one of the few toy lines. I think I actually had almost everything. So I really
It's
ate
actually
up.
gotten somewhat of a cult following over the years. In fact, the designer that helped contribute to the Ninjago City set for the Lego Ninjago movie, there was a minifigure that was wearing a Galador shirt along with a sticker element featuring Nick and Allegra as traditional minifigures. So, like, the fact that it's managed to have some sort of piece of... It's had some sort of cult following ever since is great.
It has a video game.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. I don't know if it's a very good one, but it is a video
No,
game.
it's not. I hated playing that game. It made me so
Oh,
frustrated.
so the theme of Galador was even referenced in a level in Lego Marvel Superheroes, the Guardians of the Galaxy one,
Oh yeah.
where one of
Oh,
the
wow.
where Star Lord mentions that one of the planets that they should take to get to the Avengers is named Galador. It's kind of
cute.
amazing that the final series that ever aired on Fox Kids actually has lasted this long in sort of relevancy.
Wow. No, yeah, Galador was kind of neat. I won't lie. I got a lot
I'm gonna
of it.
rewatch this show again sometime. Thanks, Lyle.
It's cheesy. I'll warn you. But
It is,
and,
but like,
and it's
eh.
ostensibly Star Wars. But
Yeah.
I'd
There you
rather
go.
rewatch Galador than try to watch Reboot the Guardian Code.
fair enough.
I know those two
That's
are
your
nowhere
prerogative.
connected. I mean, I brought up probably my personal favorite of the big toys, but we might as well get into the
Big
5,
toys.
sometimes 6 teenagers with attitude that is still going almost 30 full years later, and that is Power Rangers.
Oh.
I used to like Power Rangers. I mean, not really so much as a show, but I used to like the toys quite a lot.
The show,
the-
when I was growing up, had its moments. I loved the Megazord part of the toys because that was like taking 5 things, putting them together, and usually
Yeah.
being impressed with the end result. Usually.
Yeah, I remember when I had my Power Rangers toys. I kind of, for some reason, I had like all 6 of them. And I give them each like their own separate bed all throughout the house. Like one.
Were any of
lived
them
in
race car ones?
No, one of them lived in like a Q-tip, an empty Q-tip box. Another one lived in an oven glove. Another one lived in a drawer.
It
Another
wasn't
one
a
lived in
hamburger helper
can-
glove, was it?
No, it was an oven mitt. So another one
They
lived
have
in
like
like
hamburger
a
helper brand
can.
ones though.
I don't know why I did that. I made the.
It's clever.
Yeah, I don't know. I treated my toys like really carefully when I was younger. It was like they were living or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like those toys a lot.
So you were basically Andy,
I
even
was
though
a lot
you,
like Andy. I think a lot of kids are like Andy.
which is hilarious because your favorite character ain't Andy. It's Sid.
The
Sid
anti-Andy.
Phillips. Anti.
What if it turns out Sid is actually Andy from an alternate universe, and oh god, that's how Toy Story 5 is gonna go, isn't it?
Release the Sid Phillips Funko Pop?
Look, they did time travel in how many Disney-owned things in the last few years already, or alternate universes? It's gonna hit Pixar. Anyway, so for me with Power Rangers, I started collecting some of the Megazords back in Lost Galaxy era, which would have been 1999, and that went till about the end of 4th grade, so like Wild Force. So that 4-season run, I had at least one Megazord from each show.
Yeah.
And I actually remember from Lost Galaxy in particular, I only have one morpher, the Magna Defender morpher. It was like made
Oh,
up
yeah?
of 2 parts, the wrist brace and this sort of other part you put on your other wrist where you take a piece out, sort of fold it over, and then you stick it in here. There's like a circular piece that you'd stick in the slot in the other piece on the other arm. It would light up and make some sounds, and then
I'm vaguely remembering this.
I still have, I think, at home. I have the gun that he would use, which is almost like a shotgun-esque thing where you could like
Right, 'cause they didn't
reload
have,
it,
like,
and you could
guns
press a
and
button to take off the top, and then it's a sword. So it's like a gun that turns into a sword, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the only real piece of like quote unquote cosplay stuff I have, and I've debated, one day maybe I will try and do something like that. Maybe not, but for me it was always just exciting to recreate the show, and if it wasn't role playing the episode of the day at recess at school, it was playing with the Megazords in the basement at night.
Yeah, I remember quite a few. I remember one of your Megazords. They were pretty neat. So, okay, the one Power Ranger figurine I ever owned, I wanted to collect more, but I just kind of fell out of it. I got the Red Ranger from Ninja Storm. I can't remember what his name was. Like
Shane.
Who?
It was Shane.
Shane, yeah. And Then there was I just remember I want to watch Ninja Storm, but I never had
It's a decent season. I think it gets a little bit of flack because it was the first season where which went from filming in California to filming in New Zealand, where they still film to this day. But it's got a solid premise, and it was the first real ninja season since one of the earlier ones where they used ninja aspects. But as a toy line, Power Rangers has always kind of had to adapt to the times because at the end of the day, it is still making toys based on a show that really started in Japan in the late 70s, essentially, that concept. But for me, it was my first introduction to what is known as the tokusatsu genre, like special effects. Like before Godzilla, before I got introduced to Godzilla, rather, but around the same time as like Kamen Rider or Ultraman, for a lot of kids growing up in North America in the 90s, that was, even around the same time as before the MCU was a thing and before comics became a big thing, that was what a lot of kids were into for their crime fighting adventures. If it wasn't Batman the animated series or Superman the animated series or Freakazoid.
I remember. Okay, I actually did not related to toys, but I met the Blue Ranger at TIFF, and by Blue Ranger,
I remember that story, as in the movie Blue Ranger from the 2017 movie.
Yes, that one.
He seemed like a cool guy.
He's a super cool guy because full disclosure, so he's not on the spectrum himself, but he played a character who was on the spectrum. I'm like, the Blue Ranger, autism awareness, that makes sense, and I thought that was good representation because we don't have a lot of autism representation in movies these days. Although I'm told there's a kid in the new Predator movie that was Jacob Tremblay is like an autistic kid or something. But anyway,
call that great representation.
Because apparently that movie got really bad reviews.
Was that Prey? Is that's the new one, right?
No, I'm not talking about Prey.
The Shane Black one.
Oh, was that the Predator?
Yeah.
The Predator.
Sorry, it's easy to get confused, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I met him and I told him, "Hey, you played a character on the spectrum. I'm on the spectrum myself. You did a really good job." He gave me a hug. I was like, "Wow, thank you." Yeah.
Like that's one of the neat examples of as a kid you grow up with a toy and then you don't always know there's a person behind that character, and then when you actually are able to put two and two together and actors are people too, but it's nice to see when at least they can be more than just a role in that way. So I'm glad that he appreciated that.
You weren't into Power Rangers much, were you, Lyle?
I mean, I talked about him, but I don't really have an emotional connection to any of it. So
fair enough.
I don't know.
It does sort of lead to something where, as an adult, the stuff from when you were a kid, obviously your relationship is going to change with it over time, but does it ever sort of, not come full circle, but then do you kind of sort of go back around to, respecting it a little bit as an adult and still, watching it for different reasons than you did initially?
I do that with some old cartoons I grew up with, for sure. I don't know so much about toys. I remember there was one time I saw this Dr. Octopus figure from, the 90s Spider-Man. And it was at an auction, and I really wanted it, because Doc Ock is, my favorite Spider-Man villain. The problem was that it was an auction, so it wasn't, a garage sale. My dad would have had to have bought the whole box, and he didn't want to do that. So then, years and years and years later, I found it at, an antique store, and I got it for, $2, and it was nice to have, but I also felt like that part of my life had kind of passed me by, so it wasn't quite didn't have anything to really attach myself to.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame, but at least I had it.
Oh man, if I had some dessert right now, I'd go get a Kinder Surprise or something, but we don't have it.
Kinder Surprises. Do you know, apparently they got banned, they're still in Canada, but they got banned in the US.
Yeah,
and they have different shaped ones for the holidays, and they look interesting. But the interesting thing with it was Kinder Surprise and Wonder Ball, which were both, chocolate covered things that would have a toy inside. And with Kinder Surprise, the toys are kind of forgettable, but one particular toy line I will always remember is the Eco Bunnies, and I have the book to prove it.
No, nice.
Oh, wow.
I remember that.
It's not the original copy, but it is the same one. And this was a neat idea because it was Kinder Surprise teaming up with the World Wildlife Fund. I believe, was it of Canada? No, it's just the World Wildlife Fund. And granted they're all skiers, snowboarders, what have you, but it's it was kind of a nice way to teach kids about, protecting nature, helping the environment, all that stuff. Although it is still kind of weird that like the Kinder Surprise egg doesn't have any like actual legs to connect to his feet, but you know, a lot of cartoon characters have that.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
This book was my life in second grade. Oh, it's
Right.
1998. It might have been like, yeah, it might have been second grade or something.
Yeah.
Was there
But
any,
that was fascinating.
I have a question for you guys. Was there any toy that you wish you really had, but you didn't end up having? Like, is there any, like, you went to a friend's house and they had this thing and you really wanted it, but you didn't get it?
Actually, yeah. On the topic of Beanie Babies, how have we not talked about Beanie Babies? We started this conversation. Yeah, it's called pacing, right? Yeah.
How would we answer my question first? And we'll get
Sorry.
to Beanie Babies.
No, because case in point, the one toy I always wanted, but Josh had that I wanted was Beanie Baby, the Rocket the Blue Jay, the Beanie Baby. Like, I always wanted that one, but I never found him.
Well, you know, it's never too late. You can always just Google your, take a look at like eBay or something.
That's true. God bless eBay. In fact, I'll talk about the next toys I'm trying to collect are a maskless Toby Maguire. I almost call him Peter Maguire. A maskless Toby Maguire Spider-Man from the Toy Biz line from 2002, and also a maskless Andrew Garfield one from The Amazing Spider-Man, just so I can have like the Spider-Man, like the 3 Spider-Man.
I'm having trouble thinking of a toy that I knew someone else had that I wanted.
For me, what mine would have been was I know sometimes my dad and I would go to like one of his buddies' places, and their kids would have like a motorized like buggy car.
Oh,
Oh, like
like-
the actual ones that you can sit in and drive around if you want.
Yeah, like a motorized kid car, like not like the Fisher Price paddle car, but the one that actually had a motor
Like
you can kind
Power
of drive
Wheels.
around. Yeah, those
Okay,
were
that might have
really-
been mine too, because I would have loved to be able to just like, okay, I'm gonna go to the park in my car, and then I'm just gonna go like drive up the sidewalk and all that.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of like feel like an adult. And now I hate driving, so I don't know.
It's got its pros and cons.
yeah.
I guess the other thing would be still sort of related to Power Rangers. There was a specific sort of Megazord type thing that a friend of Evan and ours growing up, I had been to his house and he did have this particular one, but
Brandon
obviously,
Glass,
you know,
wasn't it?
no, it was someone else. But
Daniel.
again, Power Rangers was one of those sort of toy lines that like Evan and I knew a few guys in our sort of
Yeah.
grade circle. I don't think that's a word, but I'm going to make that a word that had similar
Grade
looking
circle.
toys.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I feel bad that I don't really play with toys anymore because they did bring me a real sense of joy when I was younger. Nowadays, the only thing that kind of cuts the mustard is like collecting Funko Pops.
Mm.
And but now I don't really collect them so much because of like space. It's kind of hard to keep
So
them
my
all.
question is, are we going to get a Funko-Mania documentary like that Beanie Mania documentary from like last year?
It wouldn't surprise me
Probably.
if someone had decided to go on and
Because
make that.
you could argue the peak of Funko Pops was a couple years ago.
You could say that, yeah. I don't know when it ended, but now it's like if I need a Funko, if I want a Funko Pop, it's gotta be something I'm actually gonna really need. Because I remember I walked in at EB Games once and I actually found like a Kurt Cobain
Oh yes,
Funko
the
Pop.
store where 90% of the store itself is merch, and then 5 to 10% is actual games.
You're not wrong.
I'm sorry, GameStop. It's not EB Games anymore here.
Yeah, back when I got it, because I found like a Kurt Cobain pop figure and I was like, yep, I need to own that. And I took it to Seattle on our Seattle trip.
Nice.
You know, I think one day you could write a graphic novel like in the character of your Funko Kurt and sort of like have it be this like Kurt does this, Kurt does that.
That'd be, I don't know, like I feel like Nirvana fans would find that so odious. They find 90% of the things related to Nirvana odious, so I don't know. But anyways,
Well, whose fault is that then?
I don't know.
I've got a little bit of an obscure toy. I mean, I liked it just because of the design aspect, but I've still got my my lovely those sticker books / handbooks, Crazy Bones.
Oh, nice. You found him.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
I mine are at home, but the neat thing was that I still have some of these. Like I have the stickers that I would have checked off the ones that I actually do have, because these are the kinds of things that I'd get from the dollar store. You know, usually a pack of Crazy Bones, and they had some wacky designs, and some of them were bigger or smaller than others. Some of them were like clear almost, like they'd glow in the dark. And then there were the
Alright.
really big ones, the power bombers. In a way, it is kind of like marbles. You have your big marbles, you have the small ones, and then later on they'd add different sort of product lines that were themed around like aliens or stuff like that. I lost track after a while, but one of the things I was surprised I came across one day, just putting these back on the shelf, was when I was in a grocery store with some family friends of my parents one year, I think, in like the summer one year. I think it was like in the early 2000s, and we ended up with we had Cap'n Crunch one day for breakfast, and they had like a Cap'n Crunch, like a limited edition Cap'n Crunch Crazy Bone, like one of the big power bomber types, and I just was able to keep that. So that's kind of neat. I have a Cap'n Crunch Crazy Bone.
Oh, very nice.
I'm surprised I didn't do more tie-ins like that, but it was kind of one of the first examples of sort of realizing that like I can't get too crazy with collecting things because there's no way I'm ever gonna have all of a certain thing.
It's
I
true.
mean, there's only a handful of collections that I followed through on. Like I have most of the primary characters from every MCU movie in terms of the Diamond Select Marvel series. I have like most of the front and centers. I have most of the leads from the MCU movies. The only one I haven't gotten my hands on yet is Captain Marvel, and I want to get the Disney Store Thanos off eBay eventually, just so I can kind of tie the whole thing together. But yeah.
Let me just see what that even looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Still, I forget if you actually have like a life-size gauntlet or not.
No, I never got an Infinity Gauntlet. A buddy of mine has one though. If I were to ever, I don't know, like if I were to ever get like a gauntlet, I would want the Start Gauntlet from Endgame. That would be cool to have.
Of
So
course,
it's
'cause
still
you
an
dressed up
Infinity
like him.
Gauntlet. It's just Iron Manized.
Yeah. Well, that's literally what happens. Yeah.
Iron Age.
Iron Age.
Well, I mean, I feel like we are kind of in the Iron Age in a way.
Yeah.
I don't have too many other topics to discuss. I think the last thing on my note is, have any of you seen the Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us?
I've seen some.
There's
of it,
a
yeah.
movies that made us and a toys that made us.
There should
Yeah,
be a
there's a
games that
toy-
made us, the books that made us, the history that made us,
Oh wow.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
furniture that made us,
Yeah, I
the
think it's
people
always
the people that made us. See, look at us, Netflix. We're giving you all kinds of
our
ideas.
parents. Yeah. But yeah, the toys that made us. I haven't seen every episode because I didn't grow up with every single toy they talk about. But the ones I did recall were like very good, like very entertaining. Like the Star Wars one, where it starts off with kind of like a behind the scenes look at Star Wars before it became a phenomenon. Or like the Lego one, which I thought was fantastic because they really show like the mechanics and the thought process behind the design of Lego. And how they
Oh,
created.
there was the Hello Kitty one and Barbie. I can't believe we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
I did have a Barbie actually, but that was because I had a bunch of like male dolls and I didn't want them to get lonely, so I gave them.
Oh, so you were being inclusive before inclusivity was a thing.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. And they were just like,
No, it's cool though. Representation matters.
yeah, for sure.
I think it's interesting that as a whole, Barbie's one of the toys that really has sort of adapted with the times in terms of over time. I guess the variations of Barbie were more. I guess there's no way to say without being like kind of blunt, traditional. What women were traditionally perceived as at that time. But over time, there's been so many different ones, and now all the different skin tones and career options and all the sorts of the ways they're portrayed. And there's been celebrities that have had their own versions of Barbie figures too.
Yeah, that's true. apparently do you know what? Okay, I remember reading this in a Scholastic World Records book from 2003, but at the time, the most valuable Barbie doll on the planet was the De Beers Barbie. It was valued.
Well, yeah,
at
that
like,
makes sense. Something with
it was
diamonds.
valued at like tens of thousands of dollars.
Are
if
you
not
guys
more.
excited for the upcoming Barbie movie?
It could be good because Greta Gerwig's doing it, and and Noah Baumbach's involved, so it definitely could have some witty writing. I'm just not sure at what point is that line going to be crossed from like witty into overly trying too hard to poke fun at itself.
They
I
are
don't
missing
know
a
what the
goal.
audience is going to be for that one. Like, it's more for adults.
Lady
or if
B,
it's
not that
kids.
one.
I have a feeling it's going to be a huge throwback to like the boomers are going to get the boomers are going to flock to it no matter what because they grew up with the first Barbies. But I feel like they're going to make it mainly for everyone, like for everyone who.
But again, they already Aqua already made it clear they can't have I don't know if it was Aqua or Warner Brothers.
So
that was like, you
the
can't
reason
have
why
Barbie
that
Girl in the
song
movie.
isn't going to be in the movie is because of a legal issue.
Yeah, there was a whole lawsuit about it when the song came out. I did read about that.
One of the most iconic songs of an age, like has.
Yeah, because Mattel felt that the song was portraying Barbie in a negative light.
How? I mean,
by the fact it was making fun of like the whole plasticity of it, or like
Oh,
maybe
come
some other
on.
tones. Let me just
That reminds me of the that reminds me of like how dumb it was when the Chili Peppers sued the showrunners of
yeah,
Californication.
this was from like just 2000 through to like 2002 when the final decision was made.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they alleged the song had violated their copyrights and trademarks of Barbie, and that its lyrics had tarnished the reputation of their trademark and infringed on their marketing plan. And apparently, the cover packaging of the single used a color Barbie pink, which is apparently a registered trademark that's owned by Mattel. Again, this was a long time ago, but I think at this point it should have just been water under the bridge because, there's no... You could just make an orchestral version of Barbie Girl and make it seem all sweeping and dramatic like most other movie trailers do for things these days.
Yeah. Margot Robbie is Barbie, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ryan Gosling is Ken.
That's funny.
I still think Michael Keaton
which is
should
hilarious
be Ken's father.
because
You know why.
Which is it's hilarious that Ryan Gosling is going to be Ken because you both have seen Lars and the Real Girl.
I've heard of it, yeah.
I showed it
It's
to
a
you.
bit of a weird...
You introduced it to me. I'm like, my Letterboxd review says, oh, so that's why they got Ryan Gosling to be in the Barbie movie.
Falls in love with a doll.
Yeah.
Fell in love with a doll. Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Another good Lego related thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of tuckered out now. I don't really have too many other things to
Okay,
spotlight.
well,
I
I'll
got
go
one
get...
last thing. Well, it was not really a toy. It was more a productivity distraction thing. The whole fidget spinners craze of 2017.
Oh, yeah.
Spinners.
Do we want to say anything about Beanie Babies after fidget spinners?
Not really. I never played with them.
I have my collection of stuff at home. I
talk
just
about
like
fidget
the
spinners,
bears
then we'll
the
talk about
most.
Beanie Babies.
Though one of the earliest gifts I remember was, I think, for my 6th or 7th birthday from my grandparents. My Bubby and Zadie got me one of the bigger ones. Like it was the Zulu the zebra. So that's one of the ones I distinctly remember from when my Zadie was still alive. That like he and my Bubby got that for me specifically. And there was a store in between Young and Center that had a lot of Beanie Baby stuff. So I remember it would sometimes be pretty busy when I was a kid, and we would go to get some stuff from there.
Well, Beanie Babies were a fad.
They were, they were a big fad. I loved the bears because there were so many themes around them, and some of the more prominent ones can fetch pretty high prices, but it's more they have to be like, it's like how first edition comics go for ridiculous amounts because there can't be certain defects, and if certain things aren't in the right place, it gets very nitpicky like that. But
yeah,
I guess I agree with Lyle. They were nice for the time, but I'll just look up pictures of them if I want to do anything more with them.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, now back to the time wasters.
To fidget spinners.
Yeah,
I guess it was
2.
Yeah.
I never had one physically myself. I just know when Evan and I used to work at a store that would sell them, I know sometimes when I would pass the time by like spinning one of them. Like, it's weird. I don't quite understand what the use for it is, but I see why so many people are using it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's for, it's to keep yourself centered, I guess, if you're, like, someone who has, like, a lot of, like, random thoughts or you're kind of easily distracted.
Yeah.
Just something to do in the meantime. I kind of compare it to vaping. Like, it's kind of like there was almost like a culture to it. I used to see a lot of, like, cringy videos of people doing tricks with fidget spinners. Like, this one's called the oven trick. First of all, you're gonna need an oven and a fidget spinner. Shit. And he dropped it in the oven and it broke. What the
It's a
hell?
few years before TikTok really took off.
It's so cringy.
If it was like in 2020 and these took off, then it would have gone really viral. But I do remember at my work that for that part of that summer, they would kind of be flying off the shelves a little bit. Or maybe I started at the tail end of that when they kind of were dying out.
Yeah. I mean, I only had 2, and they were both Captain America related because I like the fact that I could spin it and it would look like the shield.
I was gonna say they should have just made shield-shaped ones where you just spin the outside of the shield and then you just fling it.
I did have another one because, like, the first one I had, I accidentally dropped and it broke. I was like, damn it. And I kind of pressured my friend to get me a new one because he's like, he owed me some. So then he got me, like, this cheap, like, circular disc one that didn't spin very well. It didn't spin as well. And I was like, damn. And after that, I was so disappointed that and by then the fad died, so I didn't feel like having another one. But I remember every time I took one out, people would kind of look at me with scorn. It's just like, what are you doing, you idiot? Why are you such a sheep? But yeah, I know. I'm kind of curious if I want to get one now, just for the hell of it, because like I think
Maybe
I
you
could
could
use
be
that
ahead
well.
of the curve and start a whole new trend again.
I'm bringing it. I'll take it back. Just you watch. I'm bringing it back.
The refidgeting.
The refidgeting. That's a good one.
It's funny seeing toy commercials now because, like, sometimes the idea of toy... Well, it's more like they are YouTube ads, essentially, because you can see the same thing you'd see on television on YouTube in, like, a 5 to 10 second ad. And sometimes they'll put in toy ads in, like, the weirdest places. Like, Marnie and I are watching Degrassi The Next Generation, and it's a pretty serious show at times. But then there'll be a toy commercial for some girl's toy after it. And I'm just like, okay, if you want to have a lot of jarring... mood shifts, then sure.
Yeah, why not?
It's weird though, because like, what are the toys of today really?
What are the main toys of today?
I guess Paw Patrol and PJ Masks and Peppa Pig.
iPads.
iPads, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, apps. That's the thing. There are some good educational apps, I'm sure, out there.
I mean,
I'm not sure. I haven't found any recently.
Apparently, Hasbro is still cranking out MCU merchandise.
Well, that's the thing. Hasbro's like one of the big players, so I'm sure their toy revenue's not going anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, if they were going to bank off of new Transformers movies like every few years, then... But is the new...
I would love a new line of Beast Wars, like the Beast Wars-esque Transformers, like the ones that are going to be in this new movie, but like with, I guess, to make them look more modern, but have the same character ideas, because I don't know, I like the idea of animals transforming into things.
Yeah.
That's neat.
I like, I liked, by the way, is Michael Bay attached to the Beast movie?
No,
or
someone new is directing it.
Thank you.
I believe The Last Night was the last one. Is that not correct?
Yeah, no, he did that. By the way, The Last Night is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Last night. Mm-hmm.
Michael Bay said he was gonna make another one, but
Michael May can bite my ass.
And then we all rejoiced.
Then he made another one.
You know, I always found it kind of fascinating that, like, you know, there are some evergreen brands that have managed to stay relevant and, you know, change with the times. I mentioned Barbie earlier. Transformers is kind of another one in some ways. So, like, I'm wondering, you know, what do you guys think the next big, like, evergreen brands are going to be?
What, in terms of toys?
Yeah, like, what toys that are relevant and popular now are going to find ways to adapt with, like, future decades and still stay somewhat viable? Or do you think that's just not feasible today?
I don't know. Like I see a lot. Like sometimes I'll go to a toy aisle and it's so much smaller than it used to
Yeah.
be. I go to a Toys R Us and it's so much more desolate than it used to be, and it's just really hard to say. I don't know. Like I feel like toys are gonna kind of cease to exist eventually.
I have been meaning to just like look through a Toys R Us sometime because there's one nearby, and I was
It's
we were
sad.
meaning to a few months ago. I don't know. I always have fond memories of Toys R Us as a kid, just because there's so much to like check out, whether it's stuff you like or there's just the books to read.
Well-
and I remember just like sitting and reading to myself as a
Well-
kid, and apparently my mom said that would attract a crowd, so I didn't even need to get any toys. I would be the entertainment, or so I'm told.
I liked you know what? Loud. We actually went to like one of the worst Toys R Us. Is that okay? For some at the West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton, Alberta. They
Only the
there's
biggest
a
mall in the country.
Okay, there's a Sunrise Records and a Toys R Us like that are like on levels atop from one another. You can walk from the Sunrise to the Toys R Us. The Toys R Us is it was nothing but I got more out of going to Sunrise upstairs. You remember that?
Remember when like your local mall actually had a record store? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah, I do. HMV Sunrise Records, rest in peace.
Well,
I mean,
they're
Sunrise is
they're
still
back
kicking.
now, but they
Yeah.
as much as like this is an aside, but opening 2 FYE locations does not count as opening more locations.
Yeah.
So
But this has been fun.
it has
It
been.
has
Yeah,
been.
it's been really nice. Look, I don't know how I'm gonna edit this episode, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh, you'll figure it out like you always do.
Going back.
Maybe
to
you need a
that,
fidget
like-
spinner with you. Give you some motivation.
God, I'm
Can you
gonna get.
I
If
call
I get
this
an
the
editing
editor.
job-
You put it next to your computer, and then episodes get delayed for a few weeks because Lyle broke his computer.
Not the screen. Oh my
right, guys.
god.
Well, this was a lot of fun. I hope if you have kids, I hope like you're getting them like some good physical like toys for Christmas. But I hope toys like never go extinct because like no matter how advanced our society gets, there's always going to be a need for toys. Like,
There's
in
a
our
there's a
society.
human need to be able to play with others, and expand on your social skills and just create new worlds in your imagination. All that educator type stuff that I'm not qualified to do.
Yeah, you need something tactile, absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Josh. I guess
Yes,
we're
My
doing
pleasure.
another
joining
one
us.
pretty soon too. So look
Yeah,
out.
I'm
for
gonna have
so
to
speak.
get my brain ready for that one.
Okay. We'll see you next time, audience. Peace.